In the Future 3, Africans will have a podcast that exposes all my efforts to convince the blacks that black capitalism will help them.
If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not to struggle, then goddamn you don't deserve to win. Let's speak to you if you're willing to fight for it.
I said these politicians clowns, so let me reiterate it. Just being libs when they're liberated. They killed the Panthers and the left.
Been given a lot of attention and a lot of resources where we've literally turned some reactionaries into celebrities and given them hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to go around the world to oppose our effeminization.
The stat show we only care about our figures.
$12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country in all of Europe. I don't want to give that money. And those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now,
they milking our chocolate, we think we rich. They give us some chips so we can brag. Hey, why they own the potatoes and keep the bag? Now you stacking your Pringles and I ain't mad. Gotta sell that black soul for Whitey's cachet.
We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything will be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands.
My paper chasing past to have me feeling like a hypocrite. The dollars can't compromise the change I'm trying to implement. I use the mic to keep the Decepticons at bay with the same qualms as Noam Chomsky and Kwame Ture, hood socialists. With a new era beret, it's like they neuralize you. We just redo errors, it's crazy. They got new Elijahs, Xing out black messiahs today. Trying to neutralize us, just COINTELPRO away. Hey, loyalty, it's rarely immune to pay. These coons come buffoon for the Klansmen that they obey. They discard us, disregard us, we take them back anyway. We easy prey, it's evident by the precedents that we lay. Well adjusted to injustice, our people in disarray. Feel the terror from mega ever scared to go disobey. We recite the words, they fearing the play.
And the millionaires are paupers.
Right. Worldwide net private wealth stood at $450 trillion in 2022. I just, and to Diallo's point, remember what this number means. This is money, this is wealth produced for private ownership by all of us, extracted from all of us, in all that we do in the economy.
If they're not educated, they want more, and before you know it, they'll be capitalists, and before you know it, we have Negro imperialism.
Yes, indeed. It is that time. What's up, world? Welcome back to, wrong background. Earn Your Liberation. Episode, and Renee. Episode 83.
Yo, we didn't even say a word and we already got expert advice in the chat. It's crazy.
We do already?
Already, bro. So listen, last week was 82, my college football number. This week was 83, the year of my birth. So what was y'all doing in 83?
Oh, wow. 83. So I would have been coming up on 12. Wait. Yeah, 12. Is that your audio? You in the wind?
Diallo.
Oh, whoops, my bad. It is Diallo.
Yeah.
Diallo, was your mic plugged in? No. Yeah. Oof. That was oof.
You be hearing
I
can't hear it.
You didn't hear that?
Nah.
Oh my goodness. It was just brutal. Sound like we were in a wind tunnel.
But yeah, you was 12 and 83?
Yeah, coming up on 12. Coming up on 12. Yep.
What you remember about 12, if anything?
Nothing.
Really?
I was trying to Diallo, I think you still got the same issue. Say something. Yeah, we're not. You're not. Your mic's not plugged in.
Sound like you're in an echo or something.
You in the wind tunnel. I don't even remember what was happening in '83.
I mean, Star was born. I mean, I don't know what else was going on.
Oh wow. Yeah. Other than that, you wild.
my daddy's son was born.
Your daddy's son was born. Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember. Well, welcome. Congratulations on this. That number. But what was the advice in the chat though?
I don't know, something about the edit on Diallo. I don't know, something about Diallo. Edit. Yeah.
Well,
used out of context. Diallo's clip was used out of context. Not the best, and it makes it seem like he was saying something that he isn't.
Can y'all hear me now?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but we do hear you. But yeah, I don't know. There's some.
Diallo, what's your answer, Diallo? What you was doing in '83?
How about now? Is this better?
It sounds good to me. I don't know what it's good.
It's good. It's good.
83.
Do you remember '83?
Yeah, I remember '83. I was a child, a young child.
Oh wow! Yeah. Let's play the music. Let the music play. Came out in '83. Really? Let the music.
How old were you when? So Jared was 12. How old were you, Diallo?
10.
9 years old.
9 years old. 9 years old.
And what you remember at 9?
What month?
How are you 3 years younger than me?
October.
No, I was 10.
How all of a sudden are you 2 years younger than me?
I was 10 years old and living in I had just gone through Kwanzaa Kunjufu. I had 5th grade failure syndrome or something, and let me see.
8.
And I was in special ed.
We got all these old heads up in this space, man.
I was subjected to special ed in the Kansas City public school system because they didn't want to deal with my behavioral issues, so they just said I was cognitively delayed and put me in a special ed classroom with 2 racist white teachers.
That's the solution for everything.
Yeah. Oh God, 17.
I mean, Dad, we don't have to age shame people.
Damn.
No. Yeah. And
it says negative 17, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was separated. Negative 7. Oh God, I mean I'm 17 years old.
Yeah, I was 10 years old, and I was on my first stint in the 5th grade because I had to repeat the 5th grade. I was on my first stint in the 5th grade, and I had a teacher named Miss Fox. Very vivid time. Y'all don't want to hear them. It's some old.
But you remember all those joints though.
Yeah, vividly. I remember 10 vividly. It's some heartbreaking shit, man. Some old Cornbread Earl and me fucking hood movie type shit going on. Y'all don't want to know about my childhood.
Listen, man, I remember a whole lot. Hard times. I still remember a whole lot too. I remember I almost got expelled in the 2nd grade because my cousin used to make weapons. So he made some brass knuckles one weekend, and I know it was in my jacket. And then my homeboy found it, and he said, "Let me have it, or else I'm gonna tell." And I said, "No, you can't have it." And then he told the teacher, and I almost was suspended.
That's hard times, Geechee.
Boy, one of them, I almost got expelled in 2nd grade. Who gets expelled in 2nd grade? Like, who does that? I may have some other.
That's hard times, Geechee.
I'm starting there. Though.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. I guess in Gullah Geechee land, maybe that's hard times in Black land, in Blacktown, but nah, shit.
Hey, bro,
I can't talk about on mass media. It's too hard to watch, type shit. So
I can't believe Geechee is an '80s baby. I definitely thought you were mad younger. Nah, Geechee is not that young.
You got to eat those plants, bro. I'm trying to tell you. Gotta eat those plants. I would have been on varsity sports with y'all by the time I was coming up though, because I started varsity pretty young.
Yeah. Well, by the time you were making varsity, I was already headed towards retirement, so we wouldn't have. My career ended. I peaked early. I think, in fact, 13 might have been my athletic peak.
I was uncoachable. I couldn't do sports.
And then by 15, the substances were getting involved. So we were already on the way out.
I said, you didn't even do skateboard when you was at your age?
I skateboard, but not competitively. I used to run cross country. I was like varsity cross country my sophomore year, captain of the cross, because with cross country, you like leave and you didn't have to interact with the coach for hours.
Yeah.
So I could go, and when we get out, we do our stretches. He talks some nonsense and tell us some shit about farm and tell us about the next race, and then he'd send us off, and we would run. And then our cross country track was through like this area called Loose Park, which was like the most affluent white areas. We'd run through like the parks in the most affluent white areas, but I didn't have to interact with the coach. I didn't have no, old white men yelling and screaming at me. So I kind of thrived in running cross country, but like basketball and shit, couldn't have no dude screaming at me from the sidelines like that. That was the weirdest shit. And
I think that's how you should market cross country to children.
Yeah.
You don't be a coach for hours.
I don't know what, at least back in the early 90s, like these abusive, coachings, calling you all out your name and shit.
I watched Cam and Mace interview their coaches.
Their coaches funny as hell. I had coaches like that,
but they were abusive though. They clearly were abusive. Of course,
I don't know. Listen, I don't know that anybody had non-abusive coaches anywhere past.
I listen.
My age, and
I had too much. I had too much voluntary abuse in my life for me to volunteer to be abused for free. Like, nah, I'm gonna pay you or I'm gonna sign up for abuse.
Bro, we used to
more of the same.
We used to practice 3 days in the sun.
Yeah,
that's
3 days. Good Lord.
With pads on. But speaking of cross country,
I got out there
Diallo running cross country.
And the dude's like, man, Coach Jackson's like, the fuck is wrong with you, man? What the fuck is your problem? And I'm like, whoa, who are you talking to? And I was done.
Who selects the pictures for these?
Diallo, man. You know what Diallo be doing. Diallo look like the what's the guy off of Austin Powers? That's what he looked like. Austin Powers there.
Austin
guy
Powers.
From or Austin Powers?
Austin Powers. Yeah. Don't he take a picture making that little face with some glasses?
Oh, okay. You got to have it. Diallo doesn't have the busted teeth though. Or the white skin. I don't know to what extent we need to be racially consistent when we're talking about these things.
Yo, but
I used to listen to a sports radio show back in the day, speaking of 80s and 90s racism, where one of the hosts, the white host his thing was, I won't compare a white player to a black. Like, you need to be racially consistent when you make your comparisons. So he wouldn't say, if he saw a white kid playing in college, he would never compare him to a black NBA player and vice versa. And I just thought that was really well accepted mainstream sports radio racism and kind of comedy, But anyway, sorry, put the thing. It makes sense.
Put the thing in the thing.
Put the thing in.
They not like us.
They not. Hey man. Somebody help me and Diallo get the
phrasing.
But yeah, we put the link in the chat for anybody else.
No, put it back on the screen though, real quick. We didn't even really talk about it. I don't know why you took it down so fast.
Cause man, y'all start talking about sports again. I'm trying to get cross country.
I was just trying to tell a little silly side story real quick.
Man. Diallo, where we going at, man? What we going at?
We ain't going nowhere with them numbers.
Trip canceled.
We go
seriously. That's
we gonna go to what? Michael Jackson house in Gary, Indiana. But yeah, what's going on in Jackson, man? Remind the people, what Skip
in Jackson. We're gonna do a on Saturday afternoon. We're gonna do a live broadcast, Rational Radicals and Earn Your Liberation. We're going to have a discussion on Black August and the evolution of Black militancy. And then later that evening, we're going to Skip Coon's album release party, Radio Free Jafrica, which is his first studio album in, I think, 10 years. And so he's going to do a live performance with a couple of opening acts at Urban Foxes. So it's going to be a day in Jackson. The sun going to shine on Jackson for
finally
Saturday.
You're welcome, everybody. Finally.
So we're going there.
Jared is the sun. He is the sun.
I bring the sun. I bring the, as my friends used to say when I walk in the room, here come the air conditioning. Like,
so we're going to we're going to celebrate Skip and his monumental accomplishment, which is him releasing that album, Conscious Hip Hop.
Is Tafari really coming?
On Marcus Garvey's birthday.
Tafari ain't gonna be there. This is myth. I don't believe that. That's mythological. That's now he talking trash in the chat. That would be dope, though. Trolling in the chat. It would be dope if he showed up. But just to be clear, when you say live, you don't mean live on this platform. You mean live in human life. Person. IRL, as the young people say.
This ain't live.
This ain't live.
If it ain't no flesh.
What young people say IRL?
No. Young people say IRL.
Young people when? Where?
I don't know. That's what it. That's I learned that from the YouTube streets. In real life, I learned it. It's a whole genre of broadcasting. Damn. And cats are collapsing. I don't learn about them till I watch the collapse videos. So I don't know nothing about these people until somebody starts exposing the collapse, including Mr.
Like
Beast.
Mr. Beast, yeah, fuck Mr. Beast.
Woo! This is some delicious.
God. There is a God. That's evidence of God.
This is some Schadenfreude. I'm just in the sideline, like with the popcorn and all of that. This is just incredible. And I have never watched even 30 seconds of that man's content. So,
yeah,
but it is just some shady.
Is it though?
No. It seems like it.
I mean, it's pretty run-of-the-mill shit. I don't know why, everybody loves capitalism until some capitalist shit happens. To me, I haven't heard anything to make me gas.
Well, there's
this is some typical run-of-the-mill rich white boy shit. Like,
except for the PDF file stuff and some
I'll
adjacent.
say it again. Did I stutter? I said this is some run-of-the-mill rich white boy shit.
So I thought the run-in-the-mill part you meant were the lottery scams and the sales. I thought, okay, but you're including the Epstein life is all of it. I'm with you. Okay, I'm not mad at that.
Around in Epstein's plane now?
All of them, all of the supposed all of the people competing with each other.
Listen,
is Trump in his plane for real?
Rich white boy shit. He ain't done nothing to separate him from the horde of other rich white boys throughout history of rich white boys. Come on, where are we? What I mean,
the fake philanthropy. I thought no.
Run of the mill shit, basic shit. He a basic bitch.
By the way,
ain't nothing. He ain't done. Come on.
There you go. I'm definitely clipping that. Mr. Beast is a basic bitch. If we gonna put that up, that's gonna get us. Oh man, we're gonna get remonetized off of that clip.
Tell me something.
Wait, what?
Why is that? Silberg, we trying to advance.
No, we are enlightened on this channel. We are enlightened. We now say
why are you dragging
phrasing?
No, we say proceed. No more pausing. We're full steam ahead. Ramming right through. No more pausing. We 100%.
Phrasing.
Hey, slow down, bro.
Put on the gas.
Slow down, bro.
Put on the gas. I'm enlightened. Y'all still in the dark ages. Proceed. What was I saying? Like, name another.
Slow down, bro.
The only rich white boys that haven't had these scandals are the ones nobody's investigated. That's the only ones.
Oh no, and CoffeeZilla's getting the rest of them. CoffeeZilla is like the digital John Brown. Logan. Boy, I tell you, this he got Logan. He called out. He caught another one this morning. I saw a video this morning.
Come on.
CoffeeZilla did what now?
That's what shocks me.
He just catches all these scams, and then he knows how to read all the data. He's all in people's crypto wallets and reading all the blockchain, and he gets all the all the clips, and then people call him with investigations. And then my favorite part with his his
job
content,
in the world.
but is what no,
I
think he puts in work,
and
this is but when they call him and say, "Oh man, I just love your work, and please don't investigate me." It's like,
listen. We going back to Louis XV. We going back to Caligula.
He getting that JT treatment.
What is happening here? What upsets me and disturbs me is that people still are acting surprised when rich and white come together.
Man, JT, I was watching JT. JT does a lot. I actually still try to enjoy his content, but more and more he has really linked up with
Tony the closing.
No, with Tone the Talks.
Oh, yeah. I knew.
And it becomes kind of like the clip I want to play today from this Black MAGA report.
Listen.
But it was either Tone or EYL.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's it.
That man.
You said we did what? We did what?
Before he fell into the black reactionary conservative abyss.
Bro, he was already there, bro. He was already there. He was already there.
Here. He came before both of y'all. And said some conservative
right
reactionary shit, and y'all just nodded. And so you could have stopped him.
I love the way you really have built this up like that in your head.
He did.
This is not.
He was already gone, Diallo. He was already gone, bro. Listen,
Diallo's just mad that he wasn't on that show.
That's right. First of all, JT was already gone. Second of all, he was just waiting. He was waiting to go into his full personality as he start climbing. I'm telling you,
we even said during the show. We talked about it before. He is an accountant, a Howard University graduated accountant. He is very stereotypically in the Black excellence, Black capitalist, Black America love fest lane. He just happens to do, I think, important work up to a point in exposing actual hustlers and frauds. And we said we don't agree. You just want people to yell at people and create a spectacle. We said we don't agree. That was it. Yes. I sent him my work. He never answered, and then he hangs out with Tone Talks. So okay, but he does good work up to the point.
No, he don't. A half truth is more dangerous than a good lie. Like Mr. Beast. Somebody who's
I want to say good. He does useful work.
Less damage than someone who has the veneer of doing good. A half truth is more dangerous than a full lie, as Kwame Ture teaches us. So the fact that he does good works while he has this insidious core is much more disruptive to.
Well, if you're going to cherry pick off the Kwame Ture buffet. You should then if you're gonna cherry pick off the Kwame Ture buffet, you would have to pick other things off the.
Then that wouldn't be cherry picking. Don't tell me to cherry pick and then describe the opposite of cherry picking.
I didn't. You just interrupted at a point that was convenient. No, you just interrupted at a point that was convenient for you. So that's what you that works. You stop.
Could you just retract? Could you retract and say useful instead of good?
I don't know. I'm fine. I'll say useful instead of good. I don't mind. I'm not gonna get hung up there. But the point is, if you're gonna go to the, I'll rephrase then, Diallo. If you're gonna go to the Kwame Ture buffet, don't cherry pick and get more off of the selection, which would have to include how you approach others you might want to work with, or you might want to build a united front with, or who are within the community. Now, I know I don't even agree with Ture on that one, but I do try to bring. I actually try to bring more of that approach to the.
Instead of taking them off.
No. I try to actually, even where I disagree, I try to learn. There's other part where we disagree in terms of the use of language, but I defer because I think he was more of an expert and more effective as an organizer. So again, you keep interrupted to stop the train at a convenient, point for you, but it does continue on.
Save you from yourself, but okay.
Okay, I appreciate it, Diallo. I appreciate it. As much help as I can get.
I'm not a disciple. I don't take everything everybody says word for word verbatim. So yes, I do eat the pulp and spit out the seed. That's how I get down.
That's the JT we talking about for the people in the chat. Say,
oh yeah.
Watching with JT, Jason Thornton, who's a certified financial what does that stand for? Professional profit? I don't know, but yeah.
I don't know. Certified financial planner.
I thought he's gonna play how he tried to engage in classist attacks.
Well. Speaking of classist attacks, can we get to the disposing of the billionaires
and lattes? We could all be rich type stuff, and we're poor because we're irresponsible.
So Diallo,
manage our money properly.
So listen, I got an interview. We did an interview yesterday with somebody running for office in Atlanta, Robertson. And he said some shit that I didn't agree with. And there's times when I pushed a little bit, but I just wanted to get through the interview. So I'd be curious if you think that I was, whatever you're saying, softballing with him. But mainly I just wanted to get through my questions. There's no need to, because I felt like one comment or one response could kind of derail us into a back and forth argument. And then we still was an hour and 30 minutes. I wanted to be 45 minutes. It was an hour and 30 minutes by the time we finished. So sometimes, as you said, you got to self-expose and let people, run a little bit. But we should get to the
I missed something. I think I missed something.
What's that?
What were you I wasn't clear what you were saying there.
So as I interviewed a candidate for office yesterday in Atlanta, and
I see. Right.
Some of his answers were whack, and I'm like, I let it go.
Some of this?
No, because still we just recorded it, but I'm just saying I'm curious once that come out if Diallo would say, "Oh, you should have gone hard on him, you should have done this," and I'm like,
of course he would, of course.
I'm just like, what would be the I think but look,
self-exposure protocol,
but it's not out yet though. It's not out yet, so you ain't know how I did yet.
I'm only going off of what you said. I'm not.
But I'm saying there were certain times when I let things slide, but there are other times when I kind of push and then I went to my next question.
If you don't want me to speak on it without watching it, why would you ask me a question about it?
Well, I didn't say I didn't want you to speak on it. I'm just saying
you said it hasn't come out yet. What does that have to do with?
I'm curious when it come out, how you would feel about that.
I don't know. But if you did what you just described and let him say some reckless off-brand shit.
I didn't say I let him say some reckless stuff. What I said was there is things that I let slide. I might have made a point and then went to the next question. So for instance, he said something about Black Wall Street. And I was like, well, later on, me and you probably going to struggle around that. And then I went to my next question.
Oh,
so he starts saying stuff like generational wealth and shit like that. And I'm like,
listen, I ain't with that. Shit is too real. And number one, I don't believe in impartiality. I'll cherry pick another person. Howard Zinn said you can't be neutral on a speeding train.
But there's
no neutrality. So as far as I'm an impartial and I'm just here to get the truth out and all that. No, you have a position, you have a line, you have an ideology, you have an agenda. And so when someone come to you with their agenda, I'm going to get my name out, and they coming to you with your agenda, and then you just gonna let their agenda be put on your shoulders, and you ain't gonna push back with your own agenda.
So that's not true.
Conflict.
So as an interviewer, you actually setting the agenda with your questions and how you answer the questions and how you kind of move them to answer the question. So you aren't adjusting to their agenda. So if there's something that you want to expose, you would lay out, finish the interview, and then you could go and address each issue in the thing. And if you write in an article, you can write it in an article.
Let things slide.
What I mean by, again, instead of getting to a back and forth about that particular thing, move on to the next question. So for instance, my example was when he made a silly comment about Black Wall Street, I said, yeah, we're going to struggle around that a little more in the future. But then I went to the next question.
He ain't never coming back. Ain't going to be no future, Geechee. You missed it. You missed it.
See. Anyway, let's get to the billionaires, bro.
Be a future. When's your next interview scheduled?
Well, I'm gonna try to schedule all of them. So it's 5 candidates, one of them white, so I ain't gonna interview her. But
don't admit that on air. God damn it! Listen,
you just said
my schedule won't allow for.
No,
You know,
I'm
they
not
say
interviewing.
there's 5 candidates, but my schedule won't allow for me to get to the full roster. Man, come on, white.
Nah,
We've been learning racism from white folks for centuries. Come on, get your reverse racism up, man.
No, I'm not doing it. Jared, let's go to the billionaires.
So what link are we talking about for the billionaires? Because I think
interviewing somebody.
Oh, the one that you had.
I don't see it. It looks like you erased it.
I ain't erased no billionaires. Former U.S. labor says billionaires have no right to exist. It's under
that one. Oh, that one. Okay, my bad. I did put that down there. My fault. Yeah. At some point. So, by the way, the link to our to support for our trip to Jackson is in the show description. Please check that out. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Support the Patreon for Black Liberation Media. At some point, we should probably talk a little bit about. We should probably do that first, like the latest. Can we just do that real quick before we get to this stuff? Let me just do this. So the link's already in the show description. As we rebound from the demonetization, there's a couple of things that are happening. One, we are first of all, we're not going anywhere. We're maintaining the platform. We're maintaining the collective, and we've expanded to this wonderful new website. Shout out to the whole web crew, and where you can not only find all the shows, but you can also support us through Patreon, and you can also get the update, including the statement on our demonetization, which the only part of it that I would want to highlight is this line here, at least for now, unless either of you want to highlight something. We want to emphatically state that this demonetization is not the result of our own willful or irresponsible behavior and was not related to any content produced by this current collective. So that's important. I think that we need to let folks know, and then you can find ways to support one time or monthly. If you were a supporter as a member of the YouTube channel, please consider moving that financial commitment over to Patreon or to this donation portal. If you and if you would consider, if you weren't in the past and would consider doing it now, please go ahead and do that. Again, the link to the website and everything else is in the show description. Please check that out. And you will also find the link in the show description. The online form isn't working. Okay, that's interesting. Which part of the form, Leah? Do you mean the donation part? We'll have to get the word out about that if that's what is the Patreon is definitely working. There's even new content up, exclusive content up at the Patreon, so please go there as well. In the show description, you will also find links to each of our independent YouTube channels currently, and then there will likely be one evolving with EYL, so stay tuned for that. Again, not as an exit from the collective, but as a new satellite perhaps formation. The contact page is not working. Oh, the link to Patreon on the contact page is not working. The other links seem to be working. So we definitely got to get that part fixed. Thank you for that, Leah. Because you can get to the YouTube channel, you can get to the social media, but we cannot get to the Patreon from there. That's well, where we know it does also work, the link to the Patreon link does work on the YouTube channel. So if you just go to the links in the YouTube channel, you will find the Patreon link there, which does work, and you will find some brand new content, and including this discussion of mixed race politics and Kamala Harris. So, but you'll find Barter and Build in the show description. You'll find the Bro Diallo channel, and you will find I Mix What I Like channel. And Diallo, I know you just crossed 5,000 subscribers on your channel. Congratulations.
Please don't approach me in public.
Right. And I was about to say the same thing because I just crossed 1,000 on mine. Thanks to everybody. And please continue to support those channels as well. as we look to find ways to rebound. So, okay, all right. So speaking of billionaires,
look at the Lord working in y'all favor. The Lord is working.
Speaking of billionaires, I went back. I've drifted away from my good folks at the Wall Street on Parade page and went back recently to look up a couple things related to this book chapter that I'm slowly endeavoring to complete. Former U.S. Labor Secretary says billionaires have no right to exist because their wealth comes from 5 illegal or bad practices. Talking about Robert Wright, who I love how folks become militant and radical once out of office, once far away from all the presidents that he was hanging out with.
You, man. You want me to do what?
Bro, listen, you got a right to tell all books from outside. You can't do that inside, bro.
Okay, so that's what they keep telling us, but they first tell us we got to get next to power to change power. We got to do it from the inside, brother. They was telling us.
No. Okay. Spook that sat behind the door. The spook that sat behind the door. He went in, learned the system, and came back and tell and exploit the system. That's what he was doing.
All right, well, we appreciate that. So he says that they become rich off the following 5 methods: exploit a monopoly, exploit inside information, buy off politicians, defraud investors, and get money from rich relatives.
And I love. First of all, those aren't illegal.
That list is kind of whack.
That's a weird fucking list.
And all right. My bad. I didn't mean to get caught in my liberality. I thought this was a pretty good starting point for a discussion as to why that they're okay. All right. Like so what should it be replaced with?
Well, I feel like the strong ass title, and then he just he arrived too early.
Is it illegal?
It said illegal or bad practices.
Oh,
so it would be illegal to exploit inside information, and it would be technically illegal to buy off politicians and to defraud investors. It would be bad to exploit a monopoly, but not technically illegal, and it's not illegal to get money from rich relatives.
I like Diallo's simple argument that nobody has ever done $1 million worth of work, and sure as hell never done $1 billion worth of work. We can start there.
I agree.
It's not possible.
I don't have a problem with any of that. But in terms of what he says here, I thought this was a good way of starting the conversation.
The thing about this is, it's all of these things are regulatory. And that's where he's leading. Like there's regulatory solutions. It doesn't get the core. It doesn't attack capitalism.
No.
It doesn't attack white hegemony. It doesn't address imperialism. It doesn't address racism, of course. It doesn't address the destruction of the planets and exploitation of the planet's ecosystem. When you talk about when you maliciously accuse me of cherry picking, this is literally looking at issues that the average person can see as problematic, but the solution rests in the regulatory arms of the state. Because all of those issues listed there at one time or another were actually addressed and competently. I'll give the system credit. All of the issues he listed were competently addressed by the system and still left the most horrendous components of the system intact.
Also, so when you think about the violence, public policy, and fraud, this thing seemed very fraud.
Yeah, they got your internet again.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, what happened? I got stuck. I'm delayed.
You coming through loud, clear, crispy. Oh, so crispy.
Really? Or is it?
I don't have a problem with. I can hear.
Oh, then it's me because it's probably me.
What I was saying is,
so it's never you, Jared. We know it's never you.
When you think about violence, public policy, and fraud, Jared, would you agree that list is just really talking about investments and fraud, but the violence and public policy, as Diallo was kind of alluding to, they ain't really.
So again, because again, Diallo likes the spectacle and the showtime of it. So he stops at a convenient point, a moment, so that he can prevaricate as the true spokesperson of the radical, of the radical. And what I was saying was that this is a good start for a conversation. I thought he did a good job laying it out. But as I'm always saying, or often saying, one of the problems with these is that, first of all, Wall Street on Parade, they're not going to talk about this they're never going to talk about it from the perspective of imperialism and anti-capitalism. They're going to talk about it from the perspective of the JTs of the world, that capitalism is fine if you would just stop abusing it. So I already start with that. Robert Reich is, of course, not going to do anything different from that. What I thought was of value, and it was that he explains that even within this context, this is a mess, and what they're doing is the accumulation of that much wealth is always based on something fraudulent. What I was going to also say is that, again, the persistent problem being that we get problems presented to us, and to your point, Diallo, often without the proper full context. So it does appear as though we're getting some left or progressive or even radical analysis, and we're really not. So I didn't pretend, I'm not suggesting this was some advanced thought. I just thought it was, as I said, a good place to start a conversation that should obviously lead to something. But yeah, okay. If I can, the other thing I wanted to highlight here was the Mellon Bank wealth involvement. Another way to think about that is the reality that the old Mellon Bank wealth, a chunk of which was handed down to Tim Mellon, enabled him to write a check for $50 million in May to super PACs to supporting Donald Trump for president. Now, I admit that this piqued my interest for a number of reasons, and if I can just quickly, and I'm happy to come back to any of this that either of you or anyone else would want to, but why this piqued my interest was for a couple of things. One, because for those of us I'm sure elsewhere, but in academia, the Mellon Foundation is enormous. It funds a lot of programs at a lot of universities. And it is just another of the I guess, liberal wing of the ruling elite looking to publicly present themselves as having a concern for the world. But as we just saw there, when it comes to certainly electoral politics or any overt politics, they regress to the most conservative, even hostile forms. Specifically, the Mellon Foundation, and then if I could, I wanted to play this clip. The Mellon Foundation includes, by the way, also funds the Black Studies program at Morgan State, in which I currently teach. But I just wanted to play this quick clip from a recent video about this subject that I thought was pretty interesting and offers a decent summary update.
Over the last 40 years, attending college has gotten about 3 times more expensive, even when you account for inflation. And today, the average total cost of getting your bachelor's in the US is nearly $250,000. But I started with UC schools specifically for a reason. Because by the end of the video, I want to be able to explain this. It's the credit rating for the bonds issued by the University of California, a public university system. Now, most people don't know that these exist or what they are. But it turns out that these 2 letters right here explain a lot. Specifically, how over the last 20 years, investors, university administrators, and the state came together to screw over college students, educators, and the general public. In this video, I want to get to the bottom of how it is that tuition keeps getting more and more expensive, seemingly with no end in sight. I want you to know, in maybe excruciating detail, how schools stopped making decisions based on giving people the best education and instead became little more than yet another investment opportunity for the wealthy. An investment that, year after year, not only forces tuition increases for students, but also makes education worse by cutting teaching positions, all the while worsening inequality, giving priority to real estate projects, and letting college's top brass take home bigger and bigger paychecks. This is how higher education became financialized.
All right, so that video is actually a very good update summary of this as a problem, but I just thought it was interesting. I just wanted to note that. And then just going back to that, one of the points made, and just to round out some of the connections here, I did look this up. So Morgan State is rated as an A1 is rated A1 from Moody's, investor service. So that means that Morgan State is considered, and within Maryland, which is itself rated, which I think is interesting. So he's talking about bond ratings for public universities. The state of Maryland has its own bond, is rated as well, and is rated AAA, meaning it's very safe to invest. And A1, as I'll show you in a second, means safe to invest. And it's just helping Morgan push forward to becoming the first, I think still the first Research 1 Institute. It's still classified as High Research 2, but you got to get more money, produce more programs and PhDs and so on and so forth to get that Research 1. But I just thought it was interesting to see that. And then I'll just pull this up just to confirm and share with everybody what I was looking at in terms of the ratings. Moody's rating system, right here, A1 rated as high quality and very low risk. So Morgan, in a state that is AAA rated, high quality, low credit risk, is considered a low credit risk, so that investors know they're going to get a good return on their investment when they invest in Morgan State University. And same with Mellon in terms of the grant funding that launched Morgan State's first ever Black Studies program. And to see it connected, let me slow down for a second. So let me connect this real quick. So the other day I went to a preview of a forthcoming documentary on the history of Black Studies by a good brother, Dr. Sean Utsi, who's been on the platform, will be back on the platform. And shout out to the Bowie State crew, Doctors Bolden, Keto Swan, Williams, the whole crew, everybody was there, was great. And what you see in the documentary is the history of Black Studies, some of the conflicts with Black Studies, and one beautiful section is this brief summary of the abuse of Black Studies in the public sphere, in pop culture, in mainstream commercial media, where people who claim to represent that tradition are not really carrying with it the initial politics and ethics and so on and principles that were supposed to be imbued within Black Studies. To see one of the ways that is even mentioned in that documentary playing out on my campus and elsewhere, where programs are funded by very right-wing conservative entities with a very specific goal of producing a form of Black Studies that is commensurate with their politics, while taking off and creating not only further enriching the billionaires that run these things, and the millionaires that operate these things, and the 100,000aires that administer these things, and then taking all that money, and whether it's Biden or Trump, I get the wherever we are with what we consider the differences, but going out and supporting the most overtly right-wing racist candidate is just, I think, another perfect example of the contradiction that we find ourselves in. So try to do that quickly, but I just thought that was a fascinating confluence. And there it is. So I'll stop there.
So I was trying to look at the Morgan's biggest investor, and is Mackenzie Scott. That's Bezos' ex-wife.
Bezos' ex-wife, a year or two ago, gave 40 million. Yeah, 40 million to Morgan State. And I remember the one meeting I had with our dear president, which took me 5 years, literally took me 5 years to get that meeting. And we were talking about briefly issues with salary discrepancies and whatnot. And I even mentioned it to him. I said, "You got the 40 million." I was like, and by the way, and I reminded him that it was, I forgot the exact phrase, but it came without restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, use it as you wish. So I just was like, you
cut the check.
I tried to do my version of Kwame Ture. You want to end poverty, give poor people money. You got, It did not work. It did not.
So
work.
circling back, so the billionaires, they said in 2020 their wealth grown by 3.3 trillion, and then.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Quick update. Sorry for the interruption. Quick update. Renee, part of the web crew team, has alerted us that the Patreon link is now fixed on the website.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you to Renee. Thank you to Renee and the rest of the entire web crew, including Dr. Mingo. And I think who else worked on that? I don't even remember. I know those two. But anyway, shout out to everybody.
Piper too, I think.
Thank you very much, Piper. Right on.
Thanks.
So
but
right,
no, so that growth
there to remind me. Yes, not me.
Oh, Piper wasn't?
No. Yipper was just reminding me that the president got the money, not me.
But they so it was like 614 billionaires in the US in 2020. And by April 2024, it went up to 813. And I was trying to download this book about super capitalism by Rich, and trying to figure out what they would say about socialism, because the only time that I've seen one of those rich people talk about socialism when they said, or communism, I can't remember who it was, but they said that the US practiced communism among the rich in terms of like bailing them out and all this other stuff. And so but it also kind of maybe even gives a bad slight of communism. So I think that's a part of helping miseducate people about socialism and communism by saying, oh, that's what the rich is doing it. So I wonder if that makes people like, oh yeah, I don't want to deal with that either. So
I see. Yeah, I get it. No, that's why we get, again, from the JTs of the world to the Robert Reichs of the world, we get a lot of capitalism is not the problem. It's just the way some people within it are operating.
Yeah.
And I think, it would be helpful to break that barrier. Speaking of Piper Carter.
I mean,
breaking down that barrier.
I don't remember, but did you cover, and I know Diallo can respond to this, but did you cover the concept of conscious capitalism in your book? Like,
no, what the conscious consumer was the Nielsen phrase that I dealt with. So not conscious capitalism, no. But
I feel like it's been obviously dismissed, but like I remember even my friend Nika, she said she had in her bio one time about conscious capitalism, and it was like, what is that? She's like, oh, that was old. But I wonder if that, with finance, what you call these people? InvestFest people. Like, I wonder if that's gonna like kind of.
So who's going to that? So I put that on the run sheet. Who's going? You down there, Geechee?
It's right up the road, the Georgia World Congress. But do y'all gonna give me some equipment? Or
so the suggestion that I agree with was not that we send you into the spot
outside. Yeah, I'll be outside interviewing people as they go in and as they coming out. But I might need some equipment.
So
what equipment you use to interview the politicians?
Ooh. So we use a laptop, which is not possible, and a phone to record.
Boom. Make it happen.
At minimum, you could use your phone.
We give you orders, not resources. This is a guerrilla operation.
Now,
we take that hill, and then we go back to the bunker, and then you have to.
All right.
But we are going to be meeting tomorrow, and we do have we have the EYL miking system. I don't know if some of that can be redeployed, but we could talk. We could,
I need to test that since the last, and they're very durable. So as proven, field tested and durable equipment over here.
Maybe we could get them to be our first.
For context, what do y'all want to know about the people? Do y'all want to know?
So my suggestion was,
are we done with the billionaires shouldn't exist?
No.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Not all on the same reading level. Y'all have to.
Oh, did you? I just wanted to share that. If you have nothing to say, we can move on. If you got,
I was trying to download the book to see what the man said about socialism.
Moving on.
I mean, if we don't have to move on, Diallo.
Let Diallo get his billion, because he want to shit on the billionaires. Go ahead, Diallo. Shit on the billionaires.
No, I don't. I'm done.
No, go ahead, because you don't got your 5,000 followers, and now your ass want to be rich. You can't tell this man nothing. He done got 5,000 followers. Now he think you're a billionaire.
We don't no more pause. It's strictly proceed.
No, Diallo. Since you got 5,000 followers, tell us about your billionaire status. Go ahead, bro. Go off.
I wish a follower was $1. A follower make me holler, honey boo boo. Listen.
Diallo, how much do your 5,000 followers got to give you for you to be a billionaire? Let's.
I have to be honest with you. I think a significant portion of those followers are hate followers. So, it ain't with people who follow and engage with your content. They ain't all inspired by love and trying to connect. But what I want to point out about this Robert Reich list is the fact that we can point to times in history where the monopolies were broken up. The United States literally had presidential campaigns that ran on, they used to call them trusts. And we had presidential candidates who were literally ran on a platform of being trust busters and breaking up the trust. And then the bells down to the baby bells. So the United States has had periods of breaking up monopolies, punishing aggressively insider trading. There's been movies about, the U.S. regulatory agencies going after insider trading and aggressively regulating Wall Street. There have been politicians in jail right now for accepting donations, not revealing. All of these things that are listed in this billionaire should not exist. The United States has done either all or at some point, all of those things. And at the exact same time that those things were going on, as I was stating, imperialism, Jim Crow, racism, discrimination. So the most egregious things in this system are legal and necessary for the existence and propping up. So even if you go into these reforms, so I just really want to push that if you look at the times, so we want to pretend like, capitalism has run amok. Regulated capitalism that even the most anti-capitalist historian or political science will observe, when capitalism is regulated and more efficient and more appropriately executed, it has an opportunity to be even more vicious. So if you look at the times during aggressively regulated, upper income tax rate was 75% before the Reagan administration. And look at all the international atrocities, coup d'etats, resource theft that was going on when we had a very high upper income tax rate. And before, what is that called? When the Supreme Court blew up Taft-Hartley and the Supreme Court and the Clinton administration deregulated the markets and put in NAFTA and CAFCA. Shit didn't just get bad when I was born. Shit didn't just get bad when neoliberalism came. Shit didn't just get bad under the Reagan administration. So I think as we look at these reformers, which is why liberals are often very deceptive, because they say things that make sense on the surface, but they never get to the core. So liberalism, if not as evil as reactionary right-wing politics and ideology, liberalism is insidious and inadequate. If I was trying to be generous, at best, liberalism is inadequate. Reformism is inadequate because the system is fully capable of ongoing atrocity and perpetual warfare and destruction of the ecosystem, even under regulation and more just distribution. That's all I want to say.
So that reminds me, all that accuracy reminds me, Geechee, to your initial question, in 1983, in August of this month in 1983, I was at the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington. So then in August of 1993, I was at the 30th anniversary of the March on Washington, where Clinton's policies were being protested by the very people that had elected him, the so-called left, the labor unions and everything, saying that NAFTA and CAFTA were going to further ruin everything. And of course, he went on head on and did it all. So yeah, I just wanted to co-sign that and add that memory. That is, and I do have a memory of being, I actually have less memory of being at the march than I do of being on the bus we took to the march, where everybody was singing all the old freedom songs and all that kind of stuff. And it was moving as a kid. I remember at least that it was moving.
I think I found you, Jared.
But by 10 years later, I'm at. That's messed
you
up.
Right there.
There I was. Look how skinny I was too. I did.
Jared, right there.
Wait, which oh, you saying I'm the yeah, okay. Which one am I? Okay, you keep moving it. Leave it still. Yeah,
like
yeah, there I was. I was out there. Look how I had lost all that weight. I was still young and skinny. Yeah, man. Had all that hair.
Ouch.
March on Washington.
Oh, and the book you were thinking about was Conscious Capitalism. It was written by the CEO of Whole Foods.
And shame on everybody laughing in the chat. Shame on all of you. You get a finger wag.
Wait, really?
Mm-hmm. That book came out right around the time they had merged or bought out Whole Foods.
Wait, so is that where that whole world little thing come from, the investments? Remember that picture I sent y'all when I was in Miami? Do y'all remember?
Nope.
Let me pull it up right quick.
Well, you know, you had the compassionate conservative movement, compassionate conservatism during the early 2000s, late 80s. The conservatives were trying to rebrand. This is before Tea Party and MAGA. The Democrats were beating the Republicans at their own games economically and appealing to institutional investors and private corporations. And at that time, the Republicans, the Democrats had reached fundraising parities with the Republicans, appealing to institutional investors and corporations. So the Republicans were trying to rebrand and get more of the big tent vote of the masses. And they rebranded, and George Bush had promised when he took office he was going to be a compassionate conservative. So there was an era of compassionate conservatism and conscious capitalism. It was very short-lived, but it was an exciting time, a very exciting time. But and then one more thing about this, that whole shit.
Whole planet is a thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, black people, you know, we like to fall for that. We love. Now, this is something different because Mackey, I believe
Nielsen said that. That was the point, Diallo. Nielsen, and again, when Malvo, in that Malvo is right video that I did in response to I read that $30 billion Negro book, and he was saying the same thing that Nielsen would call the conscious consumer. If all you need to do is tell black people it's for you. It's going to help you. It's going to help the planet. Black people have been reported, at least, to fall for this at greater rates than anyone else, going back to Gibson's book and the $30 billion Negro. That's how he was saying, that's how I know I'm going to get paid being a marketing agency, marketing my people to white companies. Because we fall for that. That's what it was. It's wild. It's wild. I don't know to what extent it's actually true, but it is wild.
Like I said, you're too generous. We fall for it. Sometimes can you call it a fall when we consciously, deliberately, enthusiastically run towards it and jump in, nosedive into it willingly? And
Diallo, what's that man name?
But it's not willing. That's the part.
The Whole Foods man.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What's his name again? The Whole Foods
guy who wrote Mackey, I think. He's John Mackey
from Whole Foods.
Yeah, he's the former Whole Foods CEO.
I'm trying to see if he got something to do with this whole world investment thing. My bad.
Whole planet. I mean, Bezos and all them, but no, this is the back in like a decade ago.
Okay.
But when you said conscious capitalism, I was like, oh wait, there was a conscious capitalism movement. It came on the heels of the compassionate conservative.
Oh,
okay. Listen.
But it's not. But just quickly, let me finish that because I don't. We're not running willingly off the cliff. So even
I didn't say off the cliff. When you said we fall for these schemes, I'm not saying us want. No, I don't.
And you said, is it fair to say we fall for it when we're willfully running towards it?
Yes.
That's what you just. And I'm saying no. I'm saying it is fair to do that because we're not willfully running towards it. And what
I'm
Gibson,
not talking about the cliff. I'm talking about these economic schemes. We can all boats rise, entrepreneurial.
right? That's what I'm saying. We're not falling for it willfully. There's nothing inherent to any community falling for that. What gets left out of the equation, that and I keep talking, I'm looking at it now, that Fawn's Wolf book talks about, that I've been looking at, and all these other things is there has been so much effort put. So even before Gibson writes that $30 billion Negro book in the 60s, or whenever, I forgot it was, right, 60s, there had already been half a century of concentrated, organized effort to convince Black people and others that these were the only pathways to equality, with meticulous, well-funded, studied effort. So we're being created, and that's the language they use. They create the consumers, they create the audience that they can then sell to. So there's that little bit of an element that I just think needs to be put back in there. Okay,
bro, we gotta dedicate a segment to this, yo.
To what?
To this Mackey guy, because that's exactly who created Whole Planet Foundation. Yeah,
He's
and he has this
capitalism.
We gotta go. We gotta deal with this. So
fall back. He's a compassionate, conscious capitalist.
Man,
fall back. Geechee.
Look at that OP face.
Look at that.
There gotta be what bad could come from that, man. Come on, man.
Let me see. Conscious capitalism.
Don't misrepresent this
leadership.
Come on, man.
He should be in a conscious community. Why he ain't on Invest Fest? That's whack.
Because listen,
bro. Anyway in the future.
Yeah, there it is. That's the book right there.
No, we need to deal with this, bro. We need to deal with this. We need to look at this book.
It's old, Geechee.
But I don't remember but the whole
liberating the heroic spirit of business.
If you went back to Whole Foods a decade ago, all of the kiosks, that book was all over Whole Foods. That's how I first saw it. You don't shop at Whole Foods. Get out the farmer's
bro. But I telling you, when I saw this whole planet thing, this initiative of Michael Linden.
But he's not over Whole Foods anymore. So
yeah, but he created the whole planet. That whole planet thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's still running some shit.
That book was at all the like the checkout counters where they supposed to have the candy and the magazines. That book was everywhere in Whole Foods, especially like from the time after the merger with when Whole Foods merged with Wild Oats, or when Whole Foods monopolistically bought out Wild Oats. Because I never went to Whole Foods prior to them buying out Wild Oats. I was a Wild Oats cat. And then they started putting that book everywhere because people were accusing Whole Foods of basically being a natural and organic food monopoly. And they were buying up all their competitors, just like Amazon. And then Amazon came and did to Whole Foods what Whole Foods did in the early 2000s to all these small health food. I remember I had Back to the Land, several small health food stores and distributors and manufacturers that I used to patronize. But anyway, they actually they were the big fish eating everything up. And so Whole Foods, a lot of people were being herded into the Whole Foods thing. And they were like, this is capitalism. And then he was like, oh shit. No, we're the health food, organic, natural, vegan, environmental company. So then they came out with this conscious capitalism bullshit at the very time they were literally engaged in monopolistic capitalism.
Wow.
But like I said, that was all a decade. We're on the other side of all those schemes.
Listen, man, I don't know. We need to do a segment on Whole Planet. But there's also been some things, Jared, I think you had about FinTech that was popping off. I think you're making Killer Mike them spot hot. So
well, I thought again, back to my good folks at Wall Street on parade. I just think some of this stuff is very interesting. So quickly, just the Killer Mike reference. People should go and check the interview that we did with Louise and Ebony about their book on 15 cents on the dollar, where I think they however we want to describe their intent or goals, they fully expose the ineffectiveness of FinTech, financial technology purporting to be banking, purporting to solve the problems of economic inequality. So I just would encourage people to, and that's sort of the background that I've had in mind. So whether it was Cuddly, whether it was, I'm sorry, Mr. Rendor. I'm tired of being accused of calling people out their name, and therefore they have a right to ignore the critique and the argument. Behind the work, as we've been talking about.
Now they're going to pay attention. Now
they're going to pay attention.
They're going to hear everything you
Diallo,
say.
It's a clean slate. Yes.
Based on the merits of your argument.
Absolutely.
Now you did it. You
absolutely.
Formula, Jared.
Exactly. Because I keep getting clipped in videos with you talking about people's haircuts and hairlines.
You defended me. I don't think you came hard enough
and
Diallo gonna get you into some shit.
And I'm trying to stay because now I want the merit of the argument. So you are absolutely right. They are. Everybody plays fair out here. Everybody's legit and genuine. So Mr. Rendor, behind him, what's my man's name? Hill Harper, behind all of those claims that financial technology is going to free us. We have sort of, again, not the revolutionary, but just sort of a baseline, sober, capitalist analysis of how this stuff doesn't work. So quickly here, bank regulators issue warnings on FinTech and banking as disasters pile up. Last Thursday, the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the federal supervisors of banks, issued 11 pages of warnings on what could go wrong when federally insured banks get in bed with uninsured and untested financial technology companies. You might recall that after the news broke that the fraudster crypto exchange FTX was using Silvergate Bank for deposits, there was turmoil at Silvergate, forcing it to eventual voluntary liquidation. This includes what I'm sure many of us have engaged at some point or another, the FinTech payment app Zelle. Things are so bad that the app with that app, that the U.S. Senate's Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations had to hold a hearing on May 21st. The chair of the subcommittee, Richard Blumenthal, opened the hearing with this. The banks of America have a dirty little secret. It's called Zelle. It's not just Zelle. It's other P2P paid platforms, apps that people use to transfer money among their bank accounts. In the case of Zelle, it's nearly instantaneous, and it's almost always irreversible, and it's owned by the banks. In fact, Zelle is the largest peer-to-peer payment app. It's actually operated by early warning services, which in turn is owned and operated by the 7 largest banks. And Zelle is often integrated into consumers' existing online bank accounts and mobile apps. What distinguishes Zelle is the speed, permanence, and bank ownership. And that's really the reason why we are focusing on Zelle, but other platforms deserve attention as well. In fact, it's the less known than other apps like Cash App and Venmo, but Zelle is by far the largest, several times its nearest competitor, and it's approximately 3 times larger than its nearest rival. Just 3 banks, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, handled 73% of all Zelle transactions in 2023. While the numbers may vary, FinTech companies have been valued today at more than $1 trillion. There is another $2.5 trillion in cryptocurrencies represented by 10,000 different coins, as well as about $1.3 trillion in synthetic and derivative crypto securities being sold by Wall Street. BlackRock and Grayscale have accumulated $42 billion under management in their Bitcoin spot ETFs in just 6 months since the Securities and Exchange Commission approved them. So on the one hand, I say all this to say, without claiming to fully understand all of the tributaries of what this report is talking about, is that at the end of the day, the same argument I've been making from day one is they're going to regulate, they're going to get the corporations involved, and the biggest banks and investment groups are already getting involved when it comes to crypto, FinTech, all of that blockchain, the background technology. So this idea that Black people or any other oppressed group can get involved and turn the tide is nonsense. Behind all of those claims are these 3 banks, their little subsidiaries, and the handful of people that make all the money from it. So I just
Jared,
it's
Jared, you don't know what you're talking about, bro.
clearly.
Because these 3 black women right here is doing the motherfucking thing. So my own startups are flipping the FinTech strip because so these 3, as you see that picture that I sent y'all with Kamala and Katanji and Michelle, these 3 black women are actually running things. But here, so I actually wanted to look up Guava, and I didn't find any dirt on them other than they got a bunch of weird investors. But again, just like Jaylen Brown, they want to help new entrepreneurs get access to capital. And as you was just saying, in terms of Zelle and Venmo and Cash App, because it's a large part of our daily lives, getting black women in on it and or black people in on it is what's gonna make it an equitable thing. So, as they say, the idea of having a seat at the table convened by a company like MasterCard is very powerful, because out of that connection, they can get more deals and more recognition. So,
and then when it fails, they can do a Robert Reich and come back outside and start telling some truths and sell another lane of content and books around how they were telling the whistleblowing on. No, it's insane. I mean, but to the point I was making before, it does work effectively to convince a lot of unwitting people that this is a solution and push us towards a lot of other bad directions and choices and arguments and conclusions. And yes, A-Rob, I agree. Watch Bitcoin on Netflix. I do agree. It was a good documentary, and just another, everybody's getting scammed. And subscribe to CoffeeZilla's website. It's a YouTube channel. It's like daily affirmation about the scammery of it all.
What you got, Diallo? See them faces. You support FinTech?
No. I don't support FinTech, and I concur on it all.
You agreeing with Jared?
We always agree.
Pin this time right here. Nah, so
we always agree.
Wait, so Cash App and crowdfunding, is it, I guess, is totally different, or it's like there's a connection to crowdfunding, right?
Where Jared said they're going to regulate, the selling point of Bitcoin and these other platforms was that it was unregulated and you were breaking free. And there are even so-called revolutionaries. I know, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ghetto Times.
Yeah.
And Radical Revolutionary, and he had that whole crypto woke.
Oh, I didn't know that part, but yeah.
And they were pushing, saying, hey, we can get outside the financial system and form our own independent, even create our own crypto. Akon is going to create a Wakanda. And it's not that they're going to be regulated. It's not just that. They started asking for regulation. They started seeking oversight. They wanted investigations, prosecutions, and incarcerations of many of these companies and the financial manipulators, the pump and dump scammers. So not only the very concept of regulation was eschewed by the whole crypto and tech, big tech, and crypto was a libertarian pipe dream. And they were like, hey, this is freedom. This is financial freedom. And then you say, oh, they are going to regulate it. They're begging. They're enthusiastic. They need regulation. And that whole shit where market, self-regulating markets is another one of those big myths that many of us, our people, embrace. But yeah, I support bureaucracy and regulations myself personally. When the revolution come, I think that regulation oversight,
I agree,
is a good thing. So
I agree, but absolutely.
Well, regulation isn't good. Regulation is just a tool like anything else. It depends on how, a gun, you can have a Kalashnikov for guerrilla freedom fighters, or you can have a M1 for imperialist troops. It's just a tool. It doesn't really have its own agenda or ideology embedded within it. You have to bring your agenda and ideology to the regulation and to the weapon and to these fixed tools.
Well, speaking of ideology, there's ideology around wealth and buying and GDP. And I have to admit, I watched this young boy start talking about GDP, and I didn't watch the whole video, and I was already like mad. But then when I watched the other video, I did see the part that you said he knows more than the parents. But there's a clip that we should have prepared.
And are y'all going to bring up South Africa, what he said about South Africa? And
let's play the clip.
Being,
so again, I saw both of those clips, and then I was like, yo, this is again the thing about education, regurgitation, and he don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But
see there's ethical concerns here with the child being put on display.
Yeah. So you saying we shouldn't do it?
I said I have some ethical concerns.
I don't know. I'm asking you. I honestly didn't consider it once the clip was out there. And it's not.
This child is not speaking or acting, and there's this whole arena of people putting their children on social media, not just showing their little milestones or showing the baby can walk or showing the boy immaculate handwriting. They're putting children on for their own agendas when the children don't really have positions or agendas. They're really being coached. And to me, it seemed exploitative. To me,
interesting.
I mean, I can hear that because they are pretty much even with the little funny kids. I can't remember their name, like Van, the rapper. And
hey, Van, she ain't time to play. Now that's something different.
But I'm saying, that's the same thing you're saying. In fact, Van and her boyfriend now. I can't remember. I'm blanking on his name. He really
ain't got no boyfriend.
Samaj, yeah. Samaj is her. I promise you. But anyway,
ain't time to play.
Van and Samaj are extremely famous right now, and their parents are banking off of them kids' situation and little JJ or whatever.
Van.
I think what he said on that video is important enough for us to kind of play, because
then it goes back to Jared, generations of intensive indoctrination.
But at the end of the video, I think he made some really
good indoctrination becomes so deep-seated that it is you. You're not just carrying out a script, but you can act independently when the artificial intelligence gains self-awareness and begins to act on its own. I think we're kind of going back to that, which I think is a discussion, because I don't think Black people are to blame, but Black people are responsible. So I don't blame Black people, but I hold us responsible, which I think are two different things.
Play the video. But
go ahead. Y'all go ahead.
Go ahead.
See?
And the kids, okay.
What is the richest country in Africa?
Do you mean by GDP or do you mean by GDP per capita?
By GDP.
So the richest country by GDP is Nigeria. However, the richest country by GDP per capita is the Seychelles.
Right. So can you tell us the difference between GDP and GDPP?
So GDP. I know that what GDP per capita means. GDP per capita is how many money is in that country.
Right.
The richest country in the world is Luxembourg, and the poorest country in the world is Burundi.
Wow.
As you might expect, it's in Africa, and that is true. In fact, the top 10 most poorest countries by GDP per capita are all in Africa, which is pretty depressing.
Very depressing. Wait, I thought United States was the richest country in the world.
No, it's the richest country by GDP.
Right. So Luxembourg is the richest country by.
Luxembourg is the richest country by GDP per capita.
Right.
With more than 1 million. I mean, with more than 1,000. It's a tiny country. That's what by France.
Brian.
Yeah.
So now I admit I didn't think about the indoctrination component that you're talking about. I thought of it as someone being taught. So for instance, and I will self-disclose here while not inviting certain levels of discussion from everyone, but you know, years ago, and in fact, I wanted to play a clip of it to commemorate Black August, when we did our George Jackson video mixtape, and I had my daughters read excerpts of George Jackson to be part of the video. And one of the producers I heard whispered to someone that I was indoctrinating my children. And one, I said, I took it as I'm teaching them. And two, I did invite, you know, politely as I could to mind his business about how I was raising my children. But so that's how I saw that video, that yes, he's obviously being coached up, so to speak, but that is what almost all raising and education and teaching and training
but there's
is.
two different things though.
So go ahead.
There's two different things. There's one thing to impart information, to educate or bring out or even be proud of and want to share your child's talents. To me, it's another thing.
That's what they thought they was doing.
To use a child in the instrument for another goal, to generate content, to go viral, specifically to go viral and things of that. And I think it is a thin, delicate line that
But you're not arguing they're doing both?
Huh?
They're doing both, right?
Well,
because she is.
See, when you say, you know, are they exploiting and caring for the child? No, because even if you care for the child, the moment you move into the arena of exploitation, you exit the arena of care. So certain things you're not doing both. You can't say, well, I'm educating my child. I'm proud of my child's achievement. Oh, and I could get some money for this.
But this goes back to Jared's intention.
Because to me, what I was looking at was a caricature from my own opinion. I don't know this child personally, but when I saw a series of videos, first I saw that video as it stood alone. It could be a kid, and I'm trying to refrain. But let me tell you something, just as from being formerly in the homeschool arena and with these upwardly mobile Black parents, these high achievement parents are all weirdos. I haven't met one of these high achiever parents who wasn't also a weirdo. Say nothing about the kids. Sometimes their kids become weirdos. Sometimes their children depart from what they do, you know, but when I saw the first video, I'm like, okay, this is a kid that has, from my point of view, a rather peculiar fixation on things that are not normal for a kid, which happens. But then when I saw the other videos where he's talking about South Africa and other things, I'm like, oh, this kid is a character that they're using to promote and sell.
Oh, I didn't see any other video.
Yeah, I put both of them in the chat. The South African.
No, I didn't.
Where
my bad. I didn't see that.
Thing. So to me, it went from, oh, my kids really, I want to share this with the world because this is really interesting. Because my kids have varying interests. Some I share with them, some I think are weird, and some I'm indifferent to. But if I wanted to share, but the fact that they keep setting this up and asking him these questions, and the way he's articulating, enunciating, presenting the information, I'm like, this is rehearsed. This is not for the child's benefit. This is for the parents' benefit.
Yeah. So again, when I first watched the video, the part that I seen when I shared it with y'all was what I'm agreeing with. But again, I went back and watched it after Jared shared it, and I was like, oh, I didn't listen to that part. But again, I think it's still a good topic to kind of struggle through in terms of GDP and how it's being used, and even how he even kind of corrected her for the question that the way she framed the question in terms of
do you mean I think the young man was that's to me that's content created specifically for the internet. That's not a genuine interaction between a parent or an adult and a child that just happened to be caught. That's
I didn't take it. I agree with that. I didn't. Yeah. But I thought that's what they were doing.
To share with the world a child's genuine interest or exceptional insights. I think it was specifically constructed to have this type of reaction and for the parents' own either inflation of their ego or enrichment of their bank account. I don't know what the thing is because this is relatively new to me. But when you look at that particular video in the context of the other videos they're putting out on that child, he's a little meal ticket.
I mean, there's a lot of meal tickets on this thing.
Yeah, and we should call it out. I mean, Raven Simone. We'll end up with more Raven Simones out here talking about they won't hire Watermelon Dreas. Exploitation of children isn't just
what
can be financial.
No,
remember little Raven Simone and the other child stars. She's just the prototypical child stars. When we should speak out about this, we might
even Drake is a child star.
Was he like Raven? Well, Raven was out here since she was like 3-4 years old.
I mean, Drake was out there since he was dancing like this.
I don't remember.
But anyway, go back to GDP.
Show, right?
Huh? Degrassi or something?
Well, my point, what I thought, why I thought the video was interesting, I didn't do any investigation. I didn't look beyond what they're doing. I just took it as they were trying to create a viral moment. They were trying to both make I took it as they were trying to make a point somewhat accurately about GDP and showing that this young man was on his way to having some level of understanding. And I was also sharing it as a somewhat joke at the fact that most popular Black capitalist financial literacy gurus seem not to understand even that level of what GDP is, as they continue to compare it to buying power and suggest that it has anything to do with the actual economic condition of people within the community, where GDP is, again, just a measure of the wealth created by a society and what is really a reflection of what is owned by the people what is accumulated by those who own those, the production of those goods and services, distribution of those goods and services, and the wealth they produce. So this idea is, it keeps coming up that Black people have a buying power which equates to the GDP of other countries, and therefore should be able to act as other countries. What GDP does also not explain is the colonial or imperial relationships of countries to other countries. So even if you wanted to use that already bad analogy, it still would only say that Black people represent a colonized nation as it relates to other nations in the world. But that is still misunderstood and not represented accurately either, and is purported to be some level of power. So that was it.
What would you say, GDP?
Go look at his apartheid South Africa.
We're gonna play that next.
And then compare it to his grasp and understanding of GDP, and then you start to see there's something going on in the background here.
Fair enough.
But Jared, would you say GDP has more fit for measuring income as opposed to wealth?
No.
Why not?
No, because again, it's a reflection of the wealth generated by the goods and services in the society. So it's the money that accrues or is so when they say the United States is like a $20+ trillion GDP, that is a measurement of the wealth created by all the exchange, all the consumption, all of the labor.
But that's what I'm saying. Wealth or income?
Can I give you a simplified? Because I know, Geechee, you're essentially adopted into the Chomsky family at this point, right?
Stop doing that, bro.
You're like,
stop.
No, I thought it was a different strokes type situation over there. Anyway,
I went to Colombia one time with Avi, and you're gonna do some shit like that.
I don't know. You seem to be real in with them. So
I just brought on the show. What was that about? See how you do stuff, man. You gotta stop doing shit like that, bro.
Okay. I mean, we ain't gotta walk to the beat of just one drum. Come on, man.
What might be right for you is just not right for some.
I thought you was in there with them. You'd be like first name basis with them people.
I probably messed that up already too, man. Stop, bro. Stop,
we had brunch. I don't know. I don't claim to know. You my brother, you know, and I don't know. Mystery to me in a lot of ways, Geechee. I don't know. You can't attack somebody. But anyway, can I quote?
No, I manifesto. No, that was never the situation. See, look at Diallo just creating drama.
What? Yeah. You know, you're not close to the Chomskys.
I know Avi That's it. I did some organizing stuff with her in Colombia.
Okay,
That's it.
see, yeah.
Oh,
First of all, I just
man.
met her one time in Colombia, and now you work
I was
together.
there. We was
It's
there for
all
a
coming out.
couple, almost a couple of weeks. It was like a delegation. Stop doing
Okay,
that. Bro.
now it went from one time
See?
in Colombia to a couple of weeks. See how they get you.
Let me shine. Let me see your eye. Let me see your eye. Let me see your pupils. See what's going on with you.
I'm a sober soldier. Shout out to Stickman. Can I just say the quote and move on? You always trying to bring in stuff that ain't even relevant to what we talking about. Can I say the quote in relation to GDP?
Sure.
Noam Chomsky said, under capitalism, the health of the economy has no direct correlation with the health of the society.
So all I was trying to point out is that GDP does not measure inequality. It does not measure, it doesn't show you where the wealth is or where even income levels are in a society. It's just a measurement of the total. It's the biggest abuse of average, where averages can mess up the whole thing.
The bell curve's been fucking us up for years.
Averages and aggregates.
So, and again, that's why we had that little Twitter exchange a couple weeks ago with Sandy Darity, because he misunderstood. I'm trying to say, like, that's why people use median and not mean in economic studies, because they often argue that I'm just following what they say. They often argue that that's a more accurate determinant of and descriptor of where wealth actually is. If you just say average, two people could walk in the room. One person has one person has 1 million, and then the average is 500,000, and it messes up the whole context. So that's why they use median and not average. But here we have GDP being used as like the biggest example of average, where they see this big $1 trillion number, and then all of a sudden that's supposed to mean everybody in there is doing the same and doing well, and that's not right. And then when they say that the 1 point whatever trillion that Black people have as buying power is somehow the equivalent of the GDP of another small country, they're suggesting, therefore, we should be more powerful. But if you're comparing us to Mexico, well, what is Mexico's relationship to the United States, for instance? What is Mexico's relationship to the rest of Latin America, for instance? So that would be, but they don't want to do that. They just want to use that to say, you have money, you just foolishly using it.
So that also came out of the Lexus and the Olive Tree, where he tried to say, well, if you have personal wealth of a nation, then you are unto yourself a nation. And he even promoted the myth that Bin Laden, because he was a super wealthy, powerful individual, he was able to wage war against the Western empires because of his personal wealth. And really pushing these wealthy individuals or wealthy populations. That's how the nation of Israel can go to war with Hamas, a political party. It's literally like the Democratic Party going to war with the United States military. And then reporting on that conflict as a co-equal conflict of
the U.S. military attacking the Green Party.
Exactly.
Jerry, I was reading this. Tell me if it's accurate.
Ceasefire in the war between the United States Marines and the Green Party. That's literally what it can go. It can go beyond just manipulating numbers to really justifying genocidal conflicts.
Exactly.
Because this side does have more, and they are talking about the wealth of Hamas and Hamas funding and their bank accounts that are all frozen.
They're all billionaires. Remember, the leadership are all billionaires.
So that whole thing of we have the wealth of a nation, that can turn out very, very dangerous outside of when you go into the political and policy arena, outside of when you start treating populations like they're states or state actors, or because you have a lot of fiat on deck, you can be engaged with or seen as powerful as a state.
So I read something that said this was invented in the 1930s, and the figure is a child of manufacturing age good at measuring physical production, but not the service that dominate modern economies. And the question was, how would GDP measure the quality of mental health or the availability of daycare centers and parks in your area? So do you know where the figure came from, or where that concept came from, Jared? When they started?
Oh, no, I don't know. I don't, not off the top of my head for sure, but no.
Yeah, I saw.
But the point is that what you just read is exactly right. How does it measure the quality of the healthcare, the mental health care, the whatever else? It doesn't tell you anything. And that's why, and again,
or how the wealth is distributed.
The most important thing for me.
That's the biggest.
And that's why many nations that have much lower GDP have much higher societal outcomes in terms of life expectancy, literacy, housing, and home security, and all these other things. With a relatively low GDP, a nation can literally export doctors to the world.
Yep.
And have a premier global level healthcare system.
Imagine that.
The nation will go unnamed as we investigate some things that went on in Guantanamo until we get to the bottom of it.
I know you was gonna do some shit like that. I was about to pull up my picture until you start saying shit like that. I was gonna expose the nation with my pictures, and you start.
The timing is funny though. I think Diallo is onto something.
I mean, no, literally, I was literally going to my Instagram to try to show the people the nation, and he gonna say some wild shit like that.
But are you gonna show the timing of the Geechee shows up and dude gets out?
And so all that to say is, again, like your people said, Geechee, the health of the economy has no direct correlation to the health of the society. And that's why, even the Democrats are running on their economic numbers, which are all check out. All their economic stats check out. What from Wall Street to recovery, and the economic recovery under Obama and Biden are all economic recoveries. But they never talk about societal recovery, community recovery. They only can speak on that broad, ominous thing called the economy in their economic record. Because if they ran on their societal or community level record, it would be abysmal.
Shout out to my boy Garlic, who took some amazing pictures while we were around them countries doing some things. I like what Diallo was saying. That's my guy. So, but listen, I want to show you this. We was
like the Born Identity when he.
This Guantanamo City. This us getting busy in Guantanamo City, and then open up coconuts, rains. So this dude right here. Look, this guy I was sitting next to. This joker is 13 years old. Him, 13 years old, and yeah.
Well, it could be. Some nice picture. Good times.
Yeah, that's a good picture. Good time. Go ahead though.
Huh?
I said, go ahead. Yeah, it was good times, and we.
Oh shit! They're getting too close to the truth. Let me distract them with some beautiful pictures. Let's get off topic. Oh shit! They bringing it up Guantanamo.
No, I done told you what happened in Guantanamo.
Black folks, look at these beautiful pictures.
I told you what happened to.
Look at this beautiful beach and mountain range, and we're like
in Guantanamo. We looked in the binoculars and we saw the base, and that's it.
And then he see how trickle down information.
I told you.
So I still think it's wild that's what the first place I got sent when I left boot camp was Guantanamo, to the base on Guantanamo.
Damn. Raise your hand if you have never been to Guantanamo.
I've never been there. I was on the
keep your hand down. Keep your hand down, Geechee.
No, I was there.
I wasn't there. I wasn't there. I was on the Cuban side looking at them cats.
And a few good men I thought really captured the actual vibe. The Marines really were like that. They really were like, we're on we're on the precipice of the defense of war, and we're defending. We're the last line. We're on the fence. We're the
all that Red Dawn. They link up with the Russians and even the North Koreans.
There's a whole Guantanamo City that you
south,
can be in.
When the Russians come from the north, it's going to be Red Dawn. So yeah, we need Guantanamo to protect our freedoms.
It's crazy. So speaking of that, do we have time to get? Can we get to this last bit on the Black Republicans?
Yeah, let's do that, please.
Which to me, actually, as I watched this entire video,
I don't like dude, Joe.
No, my point is, this became, to me, it was a critique of the so-called left. Like, he's over here, it's supposed to be MAGAs, but I was like, this dude, so I'm just going to play this.
Wait. Was there a leftist involved in any of that?
Well, it purports to be the claim. First of all, it's a Mother Jones produced video. The brother in the video is You're right, but he wants to be seen as the left, as a left or whatever.
Right. Which he's on
exposing
Twitter.
the black Republicans.
No, listen, he's on Twitter calling himself radical, and he's calling the vice president, well, the future vice president, radical for giving out free lunch and shit like that. So,
let me just play this quick little
go ahead.
This clip, this excerpt, which I think it says it all about the whole thing.
Conservative migrants, or more black people voted conservatively. It's worth noting that the black poverty rate has been falling ever since black people started receiving civil rights protections. It's almost as if these progressive policies worked. Now, you mentioned Black Wall Street, brother, and I want to be very real with you. Yeah. Black Wall Street was Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Greenwood District, where black people built their own community, had their own self-sustained community, beautiful economy, making it for themselves, and white people destroyed it. Yeah. It wasn't policy. It was white people. Well, white people. It was no. Let's be very clear. It was white people. No. It was those white people. It was white people in that community. Absolutely. Exactly. And and let me just say this: Elaine, Arkansas, Rosewood in Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Sweet Auburn District, North Nashville, and in Nashville, Tennessee. Each one of these communities were booming black economies, where white people, not in the same place, but it was the same group of people every time, destroyed those communities. So you can't say it's policy when when black people do what they need to do and build for themselves, and white people destroy it. Yeah. So why is it that you would frame it as a policy thing? I didn't frame it as a policy thing. We can rewind it. You said it was
where he FD.
I said it wasn't white people, it was those white people. And the reason why I'm saying that is because now we're trying to categorize all white people as evil. No. And what I'm trying to say is, back then, because a lot of people don't know this, I'm gonna put this on record. Black Wall Street rebuilt themselves after that. 4 years after that, Black Wall Street rebuilt everything they had, and they prospered for the next 40 years until policy came in and destroyed it because they decided to build a freeway over their town, and that destroyed. So what I'm saying is, if we look at policy and
he didn't like that, and this is why this is an interesting edit right here too.
It's not just policy, it's culture. I was trying to draw a distinction between the nature of progressive policy, like the Civil Rights Act, or Supreme Court decisions to overturn segregation, and white supremacist policy, like destroying black communities. But the subject kept changing. Lucky for you, I actually made a video about Tulsa, Oklahoma's Greenwood District. It was definitely white racism that destroyed Black Wall Street and other black communities through explicitly racist acts of state-sanctioned violence. This is why an accurate, full telling of history is
20 seconds.
So important. Black oppression and black progress have always had a collective quality to them. Black people have been, throughout American history, targeted as a group, from slavery to black codes to Jim Crow to mass incarceration to anti-inclusion efforts today. But we've also made progress by harnessing the power of collective action during Reconstruction and the Civil Rights Movement, and even today during the black-owned business boom. From LBJ.
So that to me was the quick summary of the flawed approach. I wanted message, because the way what he does is he brings it back to what ultimately is a very inaccurate and conservative analysis of, for instance, the role of black business, the absence of policy influence on the destruction of Black Wall Street, and all to present himself as the accurate and final arbiter of what is progressive politics, and as he's dumping on or attempting to dump on black MAGA folks. And that to me exemplifies so much of the problem that I think we all represent various forms of
first of all,
resistance.
There was no leftists in that exchange. We both
exactly.
Yes. So the left ain't got no part of none of that.
I kept saying the word.
That is the online left. You need to get over it. That is the online left.
That's not left. It's not left,
bro. That's the online left, bro.
Define what left is, and you apply it to what those people advocate, their positions, their views. They are not leftists. I don't give a shit what they call themselves.
Diallo, you talking to the people in this chat and here, but online, that's the left.
It's not leftist in any context.
Of course it's not.
You're right, but to them, they think that though, Diallo.
That's been stated, and then we respond by saying that is not. It is not true.
Yes.
And then we move on to explain. Now, first of all, the MAGA guy is full of shit.
He's horrible. He's horrible.
Because what's ironic is he mentioned the highway policies, which was enacted by a Republican administration.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how policies destroyed Black progress that didn't exist. So it's two people debating a fiction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it seemed like a debate between a Muslim and a Christian. And they're using prophecy. And so there's two people who have their own particular versions of a fiction and advocating for their accurate assessment of a fiction. And where the guy said, right now, the guy in the MAGA hat acknowledged that Black people were subverted by policies. And the motherfucker is wearing the hat of a party that has policies that want to further subvert Black people. So he don't give a fuck about policy. And then he referred to a Republican policy standing there on 10 toes down as a Republican with all the Republican regalia, and then says to a liberal, it was policies. When the policies he's referring to were literally Republican policies. So there's so many layers of menticide and dysfunction in that exchange. And then dude goes and talks about he's taking a pro-business stance. At the same time, he's advocating. And one more thing I want to say, and I'll fall back. Street level white brutality and street level white aggression is a cornerstone of American policy. And you cannot separate what white people do as a mass, whether they're burning down Black communities or they're running up in the Capitol smearing feces on the wall, which they did. Look it up. On January 6th, the Capitol building was a hazard zone because the white people were putting excrement and feces everywhere they went in the Capitol building. But that's a whole nother part. I digress. Those acts of white mobs, the draft riots, and any acts of white mobs are cornerstone to U.S. policy, which is why the same cops that can split heads and tear gas the shit out of peaceful protesters all of a sudden forget how to engage in brutality when it's right-wing protesters, when it's Nazi marches, when it's a Klan rally, when it's white folks doing that shit. White folks all of a sudden forget, the white policing agencies completely forget how to swing the stick when it's right-wing uprising. That's why there's no such thing as white privilege, because white leftists will get the gas while white fascists will get a red carpet to go into the Capitol. So that's it.
So,
but that
so
was painful
with
to
my
watch.
Diallo shirt on, I don't know that he's full of shit. I think he's more sincere, as you would say, because one, he is a Republican. Two, he doesn't stand for Black nationalism or Black self-determination. So I think if we play that video long, he would argue that policy probably helped people. So it's not like he was contradicting himself, because he's literally arguing the MAGA guy. The MAGA guy was literally he's arguing
policies that came out of a Republican administration hurt the Black community.
What I'm saying is,
he didn't mention they were Republican policies. He just said it was destroyed by policies.
Yeah, all he was arguing about is public policy.
That white aggression is somehow isolated to white individuals, as opposed to inundates and a cornerstone of every component of this system in society.
Right. But he will argue that
like, oh, those were just those white individuals.
Listen. He will argue that Trump policies positively impact Black people, so that will fall in line with his argument. So Trump or Republican policies actually help Black people is in his argument. So he's not contradicting himself, is what I'm saying.
He is.
We didn't see the whole video. We didn't see the whole video, but the dude is probably arguing for
that little MAGA dude. Didn't say anything appropriate or correct. I mean, even when I went back, because Jared was like, oh, he said, and he went and talked about the highway policy, and I looked up the highway policy. I looked it up, and where he mentioned how Black Wall Street was subverted, it was the Black right. And here's the thing. If it was prior to the Civil Rights Act, that little dude would have been a Democrat back in the 1940s. With that same mentality.
Which is a point that comes up earlier in the video where they play that or elsewhere in the video where they play that same card. Well, it was the Republican Party that was Lincoln that freed us and the Democrats that held us back. So why would you support them today? As if without any acknowledgement of the current policies and all that other kind of stuff. And then both of them were really
for the Southern strategy. All right.
Or any of that. What piqued my interest in the video was not the Black Republican. it was the claim of the video and the host to be an appropriate forward or progressive or left voice. That's what and I admit that that's often where I'm most moved to engage, is where I see people claiming to represent a left or a progressive politics when they are clearly not. And so the MAGA guy was, I'm sure full of all kinds of contradictions, but also how they define policy, because the MAGA guy is defining policy as that traditional get government out of big business, or only that which protects business. The other brother is saying policy is what has protected Black people in terms of civil rights and so on and so forth. But then coming back to say that in part to say that part of what that beautiful entry into civil rights and freedom meant was we can engage in capitalism and Black capitalism.
Real quick,
and it's like, this is
what I think was happening was, even if the policies that he is trying to advocate for is full of shit, but what I think was the radical dude who's obviously in support of Kamala Harris, I think it was showing that the Republican guy supposedly is logical and he talk about policy and he engaged in electoral politics standing on policy, versus this guy who's emotionally connected to electoral politics by saying, oh, well, it was racism. And as he engaged with the Democratic Party is a lot of emotionalism. And so that kind of speaks to how Black people engage electoral politics, voting for personalities, parties, and people, and not really focusing on policy. So I think it's kind of like it's not like they did it, but it's this idea that the Republican guy is more logical because he's talking about public policy and he's not really caught up in emotionalism. But he wasn't though.
But can I say, I hate to criticize y'all brothers. I hate to do this. But let me just say, I do think that your critique, your criticism, condemnation, and rejection of liberalism is correct. But I don't think that y'all do enough to go against the centrist and the reactionary right. And I think it's a proximity issue. Because the liberals, we do get thrown in with the liberals. Oh yeah, the left and the liberals, the radicals and the Democrats. So we tend to get sullied by them, where nobody would ever confuse Jared or call Jared a conservative. Nobody would ever call Geechee right wing. But we often, when we're out navigating, we're advocating for things, we will often get called, oh, you're a liberal, or you sound like a Democrat, when we're advocating for what we advocate for. I ain't got to go into it. But but I do think it is our obligation to keep a foot on the neck of the right and the conservatives. And even though we all live in the big cities, we all live in Black metropolis. But outside of the Black metropolis, I just drove up to Detroit a couple of weeks ago, and I left blue and I arrived in blue, but all the way through that, I was driving through MAGA, Trump 2024, MAGA. But we think in our metropolitan, cosmopolitan Black professionals, we think to ourselves, yeah, everybody know that. Ain't nobody really messing with that right wing. Ain't nobody, these conservatives, we really got to go in on these liberals because the liberals are more effective at appealing to the masses of our people, which is true. They are. They have a bigger share of Black attention and Black support. But that little corner, that little kernel of fascism, proto-fascism that exists in our community, we have to call it out. Even though it's not that big, it still is all tumors start off small until they blow up and kill the organism. So I just wish y'all would go in on the right more. That's my only thing.
I hear you. I'm not mad at that. I've heard that a good amount, but I admit that you're right. I admit a preference because I'm just not interested in engaging what are just I don't know, so baseline and boring and wrong arguments among the most conservative. So I admit that, but I hear you. All right.
We got to do the remedial work. And I'm saying this consciously. It's remedial work. Telling black folks, hey, you shouldn't vote Trump. You shouldn't be Republican. You know, free market libertarianism is not any way going to help us in any way. I know that seems like, why would I have to say that? It's more necessary for me to point out how the so-called progressive policies are flawed and insidious. And it's more important for me to inform black folks about the people who we love than it is to inform them, the community, about a party we all out in the 80th or 90th percentiles most black folks reject. But just because the Republicans are down, they're not trying to stay down. And the last thing our community needs, and going from liberal and centrist community to a right-wing reactionary community, is a step backwards. So I'm just saying, just keep, if you keep a foot on the liberalism, I agree, but at least keep a thumb on the right-wing reactionary and conservatives.
Fair enough.
Some of our most prominent leading blacks are overtly right-wing conservative, even though right-wing conservatism doesn't have that much prominence in our larger community. When you get to the upper echelons of black thinkers and black organizers and black leaders, from Farrakhan to Cuddly Mike to Dr. Fubar, what the policies they advocate for, their allegiances, I don't care if it's the NRA and shit. So just because the right wing lost black people, just because the Republican Party lost black people, don't mean they ain't still got agendas for us. So black conservatism is an issue that we have to attack consistently.
And some, including this video, arguing it's on the rise. So with a vengeance. So,
and we're very vulnerable. Christianity, a lot of black people love that Christian values, rebuild the family, trad wife bullshit. A lot of even so-called conscious black people are getting caught up into that save the black family bullshit of the right.
I hear you. Anything else we want to get to before we wrap up? Anything we want to, and we got some, can we re-announce the link in the show description for Jackson tomorrow? And support for Skip Coon. We'll all be at Urban Foxes tomorrow in Jackson, Mississippi.
Tomorrow?
And stay tuned.
Oh, damn, that is tomorrow.
Isn't that tomorrow? Yeah, I'm checking in on my flight now.
We going below the Mason-Dixon, me and Jared.
Yeah, and I'm,
I don't like it down below the Mason. So
oof.
I'm not below the Mason-Dixon right now, am I?
Yes, you is.
Oh.
I don't know where you
Skip
are.
Would agree. He would disagree. Skip said
in Atlanta, yeah.
Atlanta ain't the South.
Atlanta the North, man. We ain't the South. No.
I mean, it's below the Mason-Dixon.
Atlanta the North.
I'm joking.
You just said Atlanta the North. Now, see, perhaps if you said Atlanta, it's the North.
Atlanta's the North.
Maybe, but you just sat there and said Atlanta the North.
Atlanta
is geographically placed north.
It ain't the North.
Hey, guys. Atlanta is the North. North Memphis.
So, well, I guess we're south. We're in the South too. We're south of the Canadian border. So, we're all qualified as South.
Yeah, Malcolm was right about that. And please do, everybody.
Yeah,
first of all,
big ass lie about the Atlanta being the North. Even the god of the internet was like, I can't let that sin pass.
I was about to share it, but I can't share it now. I don't know what's going on.
Because you lying. You lying to the people. The algorithm won't allow Black Liberation Media to lie to the community. Yep, see, he's out of here. Said the Atlanta was the North, and his whole internet crashed.
No, it's my computer.
I've been to Georgia. I've seen all the damn churches and them historically black colleges. Man, come on, man. Atlanta is the South.
Here's the information. The links in the show description. Earn Your Liberation, Rational Radicals, live in Jackson, Mississippi. Skip Coon's album release, August. a truly Black August anthemic album. It's going to be a great time. Looking forward to seeing folks come through and linking up again live. Did you get a copy of the album?
Nope.
I have no idea.
He ain't hip hop though.
Y'all didn't give me a copy of the album. That's what y'all just left me out. I wanted to hear it too.
Yeah, man, go on. You listen to Peabo Bryson and Lou Rawls.
I do listen to Peabo Bryson.
R&B. That's what I said. So you ain't hip hop. You know,
he do got some.
Leave it alone.
I do listen to Peabo Bryson. Exactly. Yeah, you like Peabo Bryson too.
Exactly. Like I said, you're not hip hop, man. You're not even from that
like
era.
I'll be sure, Christopher Williams and people.
Born in '83. All your favorite rappers.
Well, like, share, subscribe, everybody. Thanks to all of those who were able to join us here live today. Please support our Patreon. Links in the show description. All the other channels, links in the show description. All the information, links in the show description. And big thanks again to the crew. Look forward to seeing everybody in Jackson tomorrow.
Don't try to come back. We're done.
I mess up, man. I don't know what's going on.
Get out of here.
Come on back tomorrow for Saturdays with Renee, which will still be going on with special guest 2 Black. And peace if you're willing to fight for it, like Fred Hampton used to say. And we'll catch you next time right here on Earn Your Liberation. Peace.
You got to earn your liberation.